until someone has questions, there's this thing that I made that I'm kind of happy I figured out. So it's just a couple of pieces of cable, effectively. It's kind of sketchy style because it was for the Steven Universe, which is an animated like cartoon series. So this kind of slightly sketchy style was okay. But it's posable, so that they aren't just stuck in this loop or this orientation or whatever. I can turn off preview invisibility, which lets me see invisible stuff, and I have these nodes, so if I scope in I can just like drag the ends to, like, this one needs to get to the next part of the cable, so I put it over there, and that one's plugging into a game console or whatever, and you can kind of rotate these nodes and it drags the painting around, and you can get nice kind of loops and whatnot. And same with the other end. It doesn't always react exactly how you think it would, but you can just fiddle with it, with the positions of these nodes, until it looks right for whatever scene you're making. Yeah, how did I make that? I will tell you in a moment. Quick swig of water. So if you're looking to use it or whatever, just look for Sketchy cable, or my PSN is Supposer. But I'll kind of remake it so you can see how it's done. Okay, so I think first we'll make the painting. I won't worry about like flex and all this kind of stuff right now. For now I'll just show you the basics of how it's done. A good thing to do is use draw flex. Brush flex is, let me zoom in. The lighter you press on R2, the lighter it is, the more see-through it is, and then you pull R2 harder, and then it's less see-through. But if that's not what you want, you can use this is in tools, by the way. There's brush flex and draw flex. Draw flex is the size of the fleck is determined by how hard you pull R2. So pull it all the way and it's big, and then pull it a little bit and it's small, and you can kind of go big and small. It's quite hard to I think it would take a lot of practice to get good at really controlling this the size of it well, but that's how you do it, and that's how you kind of make sure that it doesn't go transparent in places. So so I'll scale that down first. I'll just check my settings. Cool. So let's make a simple loop like that, and you can just retry that again and again until you get something you like. For the actual ones, I use the moves, so it has a bit of like depth to the loop as well, and you can add stuff like looseness if there's like some gaps, that like there's tiny little gaps. If you don't like those, you can loosen it a bit, and then each individual fleck will become bigger. and kind of close those gaps, and you can give it some impasto, which effectively makes it thicker in a slightly different way for each fleck type, but you can fiddle with that however you like. So then the actual first I'll show you. So you tweak the painting, go to the physical tab and turn that on, and then it kind of wobbles a bit, and you don't actually, I think for this you probably don't need any floppiness, but I'll just leave it there. Then you make the nodes. The nodes don't have to be anything special, just any sculpt. So I just make a cube. You can lower the sculpture detail as much as you want, because you'll never see it. So then it will be really cheap on graphics thermo. If it's high detail, it will take more and more graphics thermo. So if we tweak the sculpture, turn off collidable and visible, and now normally it won't be visible at all. To see stuff that are invisible while you're editing, you can go to show and hide and turn off preview invisibility. So if that's checked, then invisible stuff will be invisible. So if it's unchecked, invisible stuff will be visible again. Okay, scale it way down. A quick tip for, like, I'm not a fan of the pointy end to it. So if you tweak the painting again, there are end. You can see it better if I turn off that. So this is the start position of it and the end position of it. So if you don't like the end, you can just go, oh, I don't like that bit, and I'll chop off that bit to there. So you can kind of finesse that a bit, and that applies to, so like say I had some other strokes in there, that applies to all of them at the same time. So if I shorten the start, they all get shorter from the start or the end, in case you get some weirdness there that you didn't expect. So I'll just delete those. There. So I'll take that off a bit. Cool. But when you see invisible stuff, those flecks are made invisible by that setting, so then you kind of see a shadow of them. Right, so let's make this small, and I find if you put it like near the end with a little bit hanging out, then you can line up that end much better with like other cable pieces or inputs on devices and whatnot. So yeah, now the key setting we want is somewhere in here. There it is. In the physical properties. So it's physical, you want attached at both ends. This means, so if I make it sag just by turning up gravity and the floppiness, if I didn't have attached at both ends, it would only be stuck with the starting point over here, and the end would drop or move, or if you have like some wind moving it, that'll move. So if you have attached at both ends, then the physics and wind and gravity and stuff doesn't affect the point at the very tip of that and the very tip of that, only the middle. So then wind and stuff, that point doesn't move and that point doesn't move. With attached at both ends. Right, so now you want to get this point following this node over here. So if you grab the painting and the node and then group it, so then they move together, which means the starting point moves together, but it also means the end point moves with it as well because it's part of one group. So then you need to attach this end to this node. Let's move that there again. So if you scope in and tweak the painting again and then scope back out so you can get to this node, you can go to physics tab again and attach end to object. So you click on that and click on any group or sculpt or whatever. So in this case we're clicking on that, and it gets this huge bubble around it for some reason. And now when you move that end, then this point kind of stays in its position relative to this node. So if I like rotate it, you can watch the end of the point, the end of the line. So I rotate it and the end of the line moves and kind of follows it and stuff. So it's a little bit better if you get the line just right first off and don't have the kind of trailing end bits, but it doesn't matter too much because you're never going to see these nodes anyway. So now you can move this end for that end, move this end for that end, and I tend to group it all together so I can move the whole thing if I want to, and then scope in to move them separately. So if I cloned that and like flipped it a bit, then I could scope in here and move this end of the cable to absolutely spot on like that, and like that needs to go over there or something. Oh, what's that? Let's delete that. Okay. Get in there. Right, and then when you're in play mode, then you don't see the nodes, you just see the cable, but it has like a nice kind of ruffle and stretch to it. There's another bit I missed, and that's about it. Is that everything? I think it's everything. Yeah, and you can turn on preview invisibility again to hide those nodes and look around. You'll probably get, if you stretch it too much, you start to get these kind of breaks because it's stretching the whole line, but there's still the same number of flecks. It doesn't add flecks in between them. So but that might be okay for the kind of sketchy, cartoony style you're going for anyway. Or you can do that again, scope in, oops, and just shorten it so it's not quite so visible. Yeah, and that's about it of how that works. Yes. So you can find, no worries mate, you can find that by searching for Sketchy cable, and that comes with just a wobbly piece and a loop-to-loop piece with a bit of 3D to them as well. Yeah, so in here I used it, I made one cable. It looks pretty hideous from this angle but over here it looks okay. Got a cable there, and then it goes off into nowhere for the power, and then got this other cable Oh, that's the power one. Going through a brick and then off into nowhere. Another one plugs into the back of the TV over here, which for some reason is way up there. Oh. It can help to turn visual feedback if you pause with options and then go my preferences. You got visual feedback. All is like everything outside your group is grey and fuzzed out, like blurred out. Moderate is just blurred out but not grey. And then minimal is it doesn't make any difference. There are some things you'll still see to help you out, but not for groups. So I'll just move that like that. Go back to preview visibility, and now it's plugged.